All right, Steeler fans, it is time for the mailbag segment, the second half of the Wednesday Let's Ride podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, because I do put this segment on our YouTube channel, if you missed the first half, go back and listen on our audio only platform and make sure you check out all of our podcasts. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, follow so you don't miss a thing. Like today at 11 a.m., the Steel City Insider podcast is back. Jim Wexell, Jeremy Ritz are going to have Bryant McFadden, that's right, Super Bowl champion, former Pittsburgh Steeler, on their podcast. So make sure you check out that podcast today on our audio only feed, wherever you get your podcast. Search Steel Curtain Network and you will find it. So let's get this show on the road. For all those people out there that wonder, how do I get my question answered? It's easy. Find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. Every Tuesday morning, I put out the tweet. You respond, I answer. Here we go. Jeff Coons. He said, Jeff, greetings from Not Mad, Canada. If you could visit Latrobe, but only view one position group during the upcoming training camp, which would you choose and why? And then he writes, keep in mind that watching Cameron Johnson punt all day is a perfectly appropriate answer. Well, I know Jeff he loves punters, and that's why he said that. But for me, I'm going to say I would probably watch that defensive front. So give me the outside linebackers, backs on backers drills. I would want to watch that. Give me Cam Hayward going against some offensive linemen like Isaac Seumalo. That's what I would want. I would want to watch the trenches more than anything else. Because people might say quarterbacks, but when you're throwing the ball to someone that's not even it's not even covered, it just doesn't do much for me. I want to watch the trenches. It's a great question. Thank you, Jeff. All right, let's go to Believers. He gives the Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said, if you had to choose, which upgrade would you prefer at Acrisure Stadium? I talked about this last week about potential improvements at the stadium. The options were better seats, a bigger jumbotron, add a dome, or just fix the turf. I said just fix the turf. I don't go there enough to really have a strong opinion, but my gosh, just fix the turf. And can we schedule Pitt's games in a way that they're not always like the same weekend as the Steelers? Please, can we fix that? That would be ideal. Thank you very much. Believers also asked a question. He said, if you could pick one player to steal from any division rival, who would you pick and why? All right, so any player from a division rival, who would I pick and why? So this is difficult because there's a lot of different ways that you could go. I know that I've said in the past, like Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens, could definitely go with Roquan Smith. I mean, I guess I could say Myles Garrett, but I can't. I can't do that. I cannot do that. For me, I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. Give me Jamar Chase. I had Chase Younts of the Running Through the Jungle podcast on my Monday morning conversation. It was a great conversation talking all about the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'd probably say that Jamar Chase, put him across from George Pickens, and that would be something else. And yeah, some people might say Joe Burrow was their guy, but I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. Okay, Paul Orlando said, love your show, Jeff. Thank you very much, Paul. He said, is there a chance Roman Wilson will be this year's Puka Nacua? I know our offense is different than the Rams, but could Roman emerge as our wide receiver one? I don't think wide receiver one, because honestly, even in LA, Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver one. Puka Nacua is wide receiver two. Now, I know Cooper Kupp was injured last year, and he stepped up in a big way. I'm just hoping that Roman Wilson can be wide receiver two. Could he put up Puka Nacua numbers? Absolutely. I think that he's going to have to carve his own path. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize him, meaning is he going to be on the outside? Is he going to be in the slot? Is he going to be in both? It's going to be really interesting. That's a great question. Thank you, Paul. Let's go to Zach Farnsworth. Hey, Jeff, do you think this team will have less locker room drama than last year? I feel like it will do a veteran due to a veteran quarterback presence. Sorry. Thanks always. Hashtag Ride or Die Crew. So I think that there will be less drama. I think the Steelers really want to get away from that. When we did our Source podcast about the Brandon Ayuk situation, this was weeks ago. One of the things that the Source made very clear is that the Steelers did not want any drama. They wanted a drama-free training camp. They don't want anything distracting this team. And so that's why they got the Mike Tomlin contract done early. That's why they brought in Cam Sutton early. They want to get rid of all of that stuff. Like, let's put it under the rug because there's no need to talk about Mike Tomlin's 3-year extension once we get to Latrobe. It's done. It's in the past. And so I think that this should have barring someone, let's use George Pickens as an example, barring Pickens or someone else having just an explosion, just really unhappy. I think this should be a drama less season. There you go. So it's going to be interesting to watch. The quarterback presence does help, though. Let's go to Afton Ford. She asked, does Jordan Addison's situation make him any more likely to be a trade target? Now, Jordan Addison, went to Pitt Panther. He went in the transfer portal and finished his college career at USC and was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. And since then, well, he hasn't had a squeaky clean reputation. Had some issues last year. Not going to dive into those, but most recently, he was taken into custody based with a DUI. He was asleep at the wheel in the middle of an interstate. I mean, think about that. So he's so inebriated, I guess, or tired, or both, that in the middle of an interstate, he is asleep. The car is, I guess, stationary and he's asleep. Again, I just said how the Steelers don't want drama. And yes, they did sign Cam Sutton. I understand that. Unless the Vikings release Jordan Addison, I don't think that they would ever trade for a player who's had some off-the-field issues in just his first 2 years in the NFL. Let's go to Eric. He asks, let's say Najee has another solid season this year, similar to last year. Would you, 1, sign him to a multi-year $6 to $8 million a year deal? 2, tag him, try to make another run while possibly not paying much for a quarterback next year? Or 3, let him walk? I think Najee is the truth and deserves some love. So if it were me, if he has another solid season, so similar to last year, we're talking over 1,000 yards rushing, a couple hundred yards receiving. If he stays healthy, I would actually personally, depending on how they view Jaylen Warren, I would probably look to tag him. I would want to keep him around, but I don't know if I will give him a multi-year deal. But $6 to $8 million a year is not too much. So if he's willing to accept a multi-year deal, let's say a 2-year contract for $6 to $8 million a year, I'm for it. But I think if he has another good year, I don't think they want to let him walk unless he wants to walk. 2 different things there. Let's go to Doc M. He said, what position group do you believe is overrated and should be a concern going into camp? Overrated. So this immediately throws like wide receiver out the window because no one is expecting a ton from the wide receiver room because it's really just George Pickens and a bunch of other guys. So which group is overrated and should be a concern? I think a lot of people are overrating the Steelers' defensive line. And Cam Hayward's getting older. I do love Keanu Benton. I think he's going to be worth the price of admission this year. But Larry Ogunjobi, I can't get over how he did not show up last year. DeMarvin Leal's been a huge disappointment. Isaiah Loudermilk is just Isaiah Loudermilk. Like, he is who he is. Montravius Adams could say the same thing. I just don't think they have the depth that we really would like to see them have. But we'll see. But I would say if there's one position group that's overrated, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but that's who I'm going to go with. All right, Jay Allen says, who's your favorite football player not playing for the Steelers right now? And then how about your favorite non-Steeler football player of all time? So my favorite football player not playing for the Steelers right now, the guy I like to watch the most that's not a Steeler. That's a tough question. Trying to run through, it's not in the division, I'll tell you that. I'm trying to run through all the teams, and if there's anyone that really just jumps out and like, man, that guy's fun. Like, I'd love to have him on the Steelers. I will say that it was brought up earlier, and this might be recency bias in my brain. Puka Nacua is a pleasure to watch. I got to watch him last year when he played the Steelers. I watched him a lot. Otherwise, I had him on my daily fantasy league more than once. He paid dividends for me there. So for me, I would say someone like Puka Nacua is a lot of fun. I just like those young guys who just come out of nowhere. That's awesome. My favorite non-Steeler football player of all time, I'm going to have to go with a running back for sure. And I'm probably going to have to lean Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders, there was something about that guy. I think it was because he was like a video game. You'd think you'd have him bottled up. We got Barry Sanders on lockdown. Like, he's not doing anything today. -1, -2, no gain next series. You got him for 2 yards, and then boom, breaks one for 90, and then it's lights out. That was Barry Sanders in a nutshell. He was a lot of fun. I didn't like watching him play the Steelers, but I loved watching him play. All right, let's go to Brandon Diaz. He has several questions. First, will fans boo Kenny Pickett or Deontay Johnson more the next time we play them? I think probably Deontay Johnson. I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to play. So you're not going to boo the backup quarterback necessarily. Next, do you think the Steeler fans turn on ex-players fast? I think it depends on why they leave. So I'll give you an example of someone that left in free agency, took the money, and no one says anything bad about this guy. It's Javon Hargrave. Oh, Jay Wobble. Javon Hargrave, who played great for the Steelers and has made a lot of money both with Philadelphia and San Francisco, they didn't turn on him. They understood why he left. However, though, you have players that have kind of burned that bridge as they're on their way out. That's a little different story. We could go to the extreme and talk Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, but even Mike Hilton has kind of soured on some fans the way he kind of waves, and I get it. It's emotional game, but yeah, I don't think they turn on players in uniformity. I think it just depends. Next from Brandon, which player will be on the hot seat for the fans? I said this on the Steelers preview with Brian and Dave. I think it's George Pickens. George Pickens gets frustrated if George Pickens doesn't block, if George Pickens throws a temper tantrum on the sideline, fans are going to turn real quick. And they could also turn on Russell Wilson because the squeaky clean image and running for the mayor of Pittsburgh is great now. He's kissing babies, signing autographs, and all that fun stuff. But you got to go out and prove yourself. That's the big thing. Next, how bad or good do you think Arthur Smith will be? I think it's going to be an upgrade. Now, that's not saying much, but I think it'll be an upgrade over Matt Canada. So I'll say good. And then why don't you go to games? Price, drinks, others, drunks. I don't go to games a lot based on the fact that it is expensive. It is a drive. And it's also difficult for me with the work that we have to do and the work that I have to do for both Fans First Sports Network and Steel Curtain Network. But I think that for me, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't want to put my kids in a situation where they're going to be in a section. Like we talked about this last week, where someone had a brawl break out in the middle of their section. I don't want my kids to have to put up with that. I can handle the vulgarity. They've heard it. They understand it. But at the same time, sometimes those situations are just not really conducive to anything positive. And it's also really difficult for me to justify leaving the home situation. And what I mean by that is that, and this is something that someone suggested on Twitter last week when I said, what improvements would you make? And they said, it's really difficult for me, for this is the person responding. It's really difficult to say, like, why would I want to go to a game when I get all the replays in my house? I get all the food that I want, the drinks that I want. They make a good point. The in-game experience in the NFL is not so superb that you just have to go there. Like it's some mecca. Yeah, you want to go there. You want to see it. I don't think I'd ever be a season ticket holder. I don't think I'd ever go on a yearly basis. And that's just me. If you do that, awesome. I'm glad that you enjoy it. But for me, just some insight there. All right, let's go to Steeler Fan 69. He always finishes up with some humor. So here we go. He said, what's a cat's favorite TV show? Claw and Order. Nice. Next, someone put a hole in the fence at the local nudist colony. Police are looking into it. And last one, what did John McClane, Die Hard, say when he got his vasectomy? Snippy Kaye. All right, I get that. That one hits a little too close to him. But nonetheless, I do want to say something real quick before we call it a show, that on the 15th of July, and I didn't even realize this. I could have said something on Monday and I totally forgot. We had our 1-year anniversary at SteelCurtainNetwork.com. So SteelCurtainNetwork.com became an entity. We started putting out content on July 15th, 2023. And so now we have gone and eclipsed that 1-year anniversary. And I wanted to thank everyone that has stopped by the website, even if it's just once, to check it out. We're working on the website. We want the functionality to be better. We want the overall look and feel to be better. But as of right now, the content is what we're focused on. We're focused on the quality of content. And I can tell you that everyone that produces content for us does a superb job. And I hope that you can check it out. SteelCurtainNetwork.com is the website domain. Again, Steel Curtain Network, all one word, SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Go check it out. We put out at least 4 articles a day, Monday through Friday, and we still have coverage over the weekend. And I would just love to see some people checking it out, making us one of your stops amongst your Steelers websites every day to see what myself, Dave Schofield, and plenty others think about the team in the written word. And obviously, everyone that's listening to this podcast, thank you very much for being a part of the Steel Curtain Network community. When we sectioned off from our old stomping grounds, there was a lot of unknown. And I have found that getting the autonomy that we've all desired, being my own boss, is really freaking awesome. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that situation happen to me at our old stomping grounds. And I'll put it there and I'll leave it there. So, okay, that's it. So check out steelcurtainnetwork.com. Check out fansforsports.com. Put out some really great content. I want you all to check that out as well. In the meantime, we finished out. Be safe, be kind. God bless. We'll be back on Friday. Go Steelers.